Thank you very much, Bryn. Well, I hope you'll understand, everyone. We missed the start of this race because we wanted to stick with the TCR UK reactions, and that was absolutely the right call, I think. But you've only missed half a lap of racing. This is the first lap of this Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship race, the final race of the season. And as Bryn was saying, a special sort of 40-minute pit stop race, which is something that the Championship, as far as I know, hasn't done before. But they're definitely evaluating possible changes they could make to the Championship in future. So that's what we're doing this weekend then, with this extra race that we've got at the end of the day. A Championship that did come down to the very final race weekend of the season. James Coleman won the first race of the weekend, and James Coleman is at the moment not out there, so he won't be winning the second race by the looks of it. Second place was Ed Hayes and third place was Gary Lawrence. It was Andrew Porter, though, that led the Championship coming into this weekend. He finished in fourth position. Gary Lawrence finished one ahead of him, and they were only half a point apart coming into the weekend. So this hasn't been confirmed to me, I mustn't stress. We were trying to get confirmation of it, but as far as I can work out, Gary Lawrence has taken the Championship lead, but it's basically winner takes all between the two of them. So the two cars to watch for: number 33 Andrew Porter, there, the white car that just went through, and number 3 Gary Lawrence, the blue machine, that is ahead of him at the moment as well, because the race is being led by the number 77 car at the moment. And so the race being led then by Andrew Porter, no, by Ed Hayes and Richard Avery, excuse me. Gary Lawrence second and Andrew Porter in third, with Nick Hull in fourth position. Most of the cars being driven by just one driver, but there is the option for driver changes with this being a pit stop race, and so the car that's leading is being shared by Ed Hayes and Richard Avery, two good mates in the racing championship for on and off, at least for a few seasons now. So there is the green number 3, excuse me, of Gary Lawrence then, that's in second place. And I reckon at the moment, we're trying to get this, the calculators are out at the moment, trying to figure all this out, but we reckon he's leading the Championship at the moment, after coming out on top, at least, of the Championship contenders in that first race yesterday afternoon, which was a reasonably close affair, although James Coleman got away towards the end of the race. James has been racing, not in this Championship full-time this year, actually, but he's still been racing Porsches elsewhere and winning championships as well, so winning races, contending for championships anyway, and he's come back for this final round of the Toyo Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship, and has been rather successful straight away. But James, for whatever reason, hasn't made it out for this race. We've got two classes as well, don't forget. We've got the Boxsters that we're focusing on now towards the front of the field, and also the 924s, which are running officially Class D, and that championship battle, I think, had pretty much been wrapped up more or less by Peter Smith, and he went and won the class again yesterday, so I don't think he can be beaten now in the 94 championship battle. It's all about the Boxsters, and it looks as though Andrew Porter might be about to lose another place here potentially to Nick Hull, who is a long-time contender in the championship. Nick Hull then is trying to break his way onto the podium here in the early stages of this race, but not having it all his own way right now. So you'd expect Andrew Porter with the championship to think about is trying to retain this advantage that he's got now. The only benefit that we have for Porter here as far as points are concerned is that he has a drop score to fall back on, whereas Gary Lawrence has used up his drop scores with non-finishes, so he has 0 points to score. Another bad finish and he has to count it, whereas Andrew Porter's had a much more consistent season and has therefore been able to into this final race of the season with a little bit more breathing room, in that at least if he doesn't finish or something really bad goes on, he will gain back the points that were from his previous drop scores. So that's the only advantage we can really give to him at the moment, though, because he's not been as quick really as Gary Lawrence this weekend, although they were only half a second apart at the end of the first race, which was the standard length 20-minute race. So yeah, they've been very, very closely matched all year, it must be said. He's starting to close back in now, I think, on Lawrence in front and into the chicane, and yeah, definitely closing in on the braking. So all of a sudden Gary Lawrence is starting to have to watch his mirrors again. As he does so, they're losing time to the Hayes and Avery car out in front. Now, one thing we don't know, because we haven't been told this, is who the start driver is in that car. I don't know whether Bryn fancies a wander down to the Porsche end of the pit lane. We might be able to find that out for us. Ooh, Nick Hull with a big look at the inside. But yeah, it's either Ed Hayes or Richard Avery in the number 77 car, but if we could get that confirmed, that would be lovely. Right, 94s then, and this is the fight for second place, I think, between another car that's being shared by two drivers. Number 11 is Andy Pritchard's car, but he is sharing it, this time with driver Sonny Campbell. And so Pritchard and Campbell car are in 9th position at the moment, under pressure from Carl Rossin, who has been, again, a regular frontrunner in recent series in that class, although not done a full year this year. I think he's only done one round up until this point, so the number 41 car we haven't seen out there all that much this year. Nice to have a few more back though, because we have seen some slightly smaller grids than we'd have liked. Oh, that was a bit close as they came over the top of the hill and down the crane of curves. Side by side into the old hairpin, and Carl Rossin on the outside on the way in, looking to try and carry some good speed off the corner and maybe get the overlap on the run through Starkeys, but that didn't work on that occasion. So the side-by-side battle again continues between these two. But yeah, to my point a second ago, we haven't had the biggest of grids this year, it's fair to say, the Toyota Tires Porsche Championship, so it's nice that this weekend we've had biggest grid I think we've had all year, with 13 cars out there across the two classes, of course. And I know there are some big ideas for this championship in the future, because it would be a shame to lose it. It's been a big part of club level motorsport for quite some time now, and used to be a hugely popular championship. The time was that we had really big grids. The 94s actually quite often outnumbered the Boxsters, but as costs have gone up and the cost of keeping these cars going has gone up, it's been a little bit of a challenge maybe to entice as many drivers out onto the grid. But yeah, there are exciting plans in the pipeline for this championship. Right now though, we've got some exciting racing, as Gary Lawrence has Nick Porter and Nick Hull, Andrew Porter and Nick Hull, excuse me, all over him, turning through Coppice Corner. It's strange this, because Lawrence looked like he was getting away a couple of laps ago, and then all of a sudden, halfway around the lap, he seemed to fall back into the clutches of Porter and Hull behind. Porter is in that tricky position at the moment of trying to attack and defend, but yeah, if we worked out points right, we reckon that whichever of these two finishes in front in this race may well end up being the champion, or certainly it's going to be very close come the end of the year. You drop your 3 worst finishes in this championship as well, so shows what an up and down season Gary Lawrence has had, really, because he's had 3 races in which he's not scored points, so that's definitely giving him an uphill task here to get himself back into championship contention. And midway through, I don't think many people expected him to be in championship contention, but he is, very much so. And he's under pressure there, because Andrew Porter looks to the inside into the old hairpin, and all of a sudden Andrew Porter's gone through and brings Nick Hull with him as well. So Nick Hull moves into 3rd. He needed no second invitation. That was a peach of a move from Andrew Porter, wasn't it? Came from a little way back and I think caught Gary Lawrence unawares, and Gary Lawrence ends up losing 2 spots. So now we'll see whether he has genuinely got a bit of a lack of pace, because if he does, he may struggle to stay with these two. That certainly is benefiting Andrew Porter in the championship race now. So Andrew Porter then into 2nd place overall, but they're 8 seconds, more than 8 seconds actually, behind the race leader now, Hayes and Avery car. Down back straight they go, and Nick Hull again pulls out of the slipstream. Seems to be good in a straight line, doesn't he, Nick Hull, in the number 44 machine, but that back straight just isn't quite long enough. He almost gets alongside and then has to sort of bail out of it, really. And again, they get a good run out of the chicane, tries to pull to his left, our right hand side. Is he selling the dummy here to go back to the inside? Thinks about it, goes for it, in fact, does more than think about it. That was a peach of a move too from Nick Hull, a bit more robust on the exit maybe, but that was really well thought out. I think he was surprised maybe at the amount of room that Andrew Porter afforded him on the inside line, and so he thought, well, I'd be mad to turn that down, and through he went. So Nick Hull into 2nd place, but then there's a back marker in front of them as they head through the old hairpin. That I think is the Jones and Lowry shared Porsche 924, and that car will go a lap down to this 2nd place battle overall. It's already a lap down, I suppose, in the overall race, because Ed Hayes and Richard Avery's car is some way up the road. It's already put that car a lap down a few minutes ago. Right, for the 924s now, it is still Pritchard and Campbell in 2nd, Rossin in 3rd, but being caught now by the number 88 car, which is Chris Valentine's car. But again, a 2-driver entry this time around. And the multicoloured car. With that it looks multicoloured. It's actually a load of sort of pictures of people's faces, a load of selfies all over the car. Actually, it's a unique idea for a livery. Certainly one that catches people's attention, and again one we haven't necessarily seen out all season this year. But yeah, that's number 88 car. Still in the programme, only listed as Chris Valentine, but I can see from the time screen he has found himself a friend in this race. The other one, the 639 car, that I said was being shared by two drivers, John Jones and Ryan Lowry, the two drivers that are in the car. It's John Jones's car, though, I believe. And the other one, number 11, was the other one I was looking at. Andy Pritchard and Gary Campbell are the two drivers that are sharing that 94 that currently running second place in class. That's the white car with the red stripe there, but as I said, we know not who's in the car for the first stint, unfortunately. We might be able to piece it together at the pit stop. See a nice view of that livery there, and that's good camera work up at Coppice Corner. Well done, that camera operator. So, down the exhibition straight, side by side for second place, though, are we? Almost. To the outside goes the 41 car. But no, can't do it on the way into the chicane, so the positions, for the time being at least, stay as they are. And I'm just to inform, thank you very much, that it is Chris Valentine in the 88 car in this first stint of the race. I'll make a note of that because I will instantly forget it. They're being lapped now by this race-leading number 77 car. And that is the Hayes and Avery machine. And ooh, that might have opened the door, almost opened the door for the 41 of Carl Rossin to find its way through. Hill they go again, number 11 still in second place then, Pritchard and Campbell by at the line half a second after they both actually put in personal best laps, and there's a mistake for Rossin down at their old hairpin, and that slowed down on the way out. Right, this is the 639 car, the first of our pit stops, possibly the first ever mandatory pit stop in a Toyota Tyres Porsche Championship race. I don't think we've ever done this before.
TCR UK drivers down there, then the pit window is open in our Porsche.
Driver change now starts to be done. High-tech equipment being used for the seat inserts. A couple of cushions from someone's sofa back at home. A little bit comfy, I suppose, but I've never seen anything like that in my life. That's brilliant. This is club-level motorsport, everybody. And, you wouldn't get this at Le Mans, would you? It's a nice, comfortable, padded seat then for the second driver as they jump into the car and prepare to go on their way.
Well done to both your boys.
One of the things you don't always consider really with long distance races and driver changing races is the different statures of the drivers. You know, those that are a little bit taller maybe than others, it requires an extra step to the pit stop, either moving the seat or putting a seat insert in. It's something that these drivers won't ever had to deal with before. So we've got the field now starting to merge together, the Boxsters and the 924s now almost as one as they come down the Craner curves. Nick Hull works his way through on the inside line, and there's a nice overtake, and they are genuine overtakes. Now, I know that these cars are a lap down, but you still have to physically find your way past them, and that is a skill all in itself, and that's something that these drivers are used to racing in a multi-class championship such as this one. There's Gary Lawrence then, man who was second in the championship coming in, and that's a shame. We've got a car going slowly. Now, is that recovering from a spin? Or is it an issue? I think it might have been a spin. Yeah, I'm hearing it was a spin at Coppice Corner. And it is, I've got a theory I know who this is. I think it's the class leading number 18 car, isn't it? Yes, it is. That was the car that was leading the 924 class, Peter Smith, at the wheel. I don't think it's lost him the race lead, though. I think he had such a margin that he was about 18 seconds ahead of the rest of the 94 field, so he was able to have a spin, and actually it's not made a huge amount of difference. But the gap will come down. It was a slow lap, of course, about 12 seconds slower than it should have been, but that could have been a lot worse. Second place battle then still raging on, and still the same order, though, with Hull, Porter and Lawrence, your second, third and fourth place cars in that order. Carl Rossin is in. Now, this is not a driver killing pit stop. Carl's doing it all himself. Open the door. Still has to get out of the car and get back in. That's the way it works. And he's struggling to do that. Gets the belts off. Shuts the door. bam, and then he's back in again. Simulates driver change, so it's a fair way of doing it, so there's no advantage to having just one driver in the car. In some championships you have to get out and then run around the car before you get back in, which is a comical way of doing it, but it's there is definitely a time advantage, of course, to not having to do a driver change. They have to try and equalise things where they can. So this battle then still raging on as they head down the exhibition straight once again. Nick Porter feeling the heat now from Gary Lawrence, who needs to try and find a way past if he can, but he is also aware he's still got nearly 24 minutes, 23 and a half minutes of racing to go. And is he diving for the pit lane? He is, so this was maybe a tactical call, realising he was getting held up, and in comes Gary Lawrence then to the pits. So the championship contending car pulls its way out of the race, for the time being at least, and I don't think there's a minimum time for the pit stop. It is as quick as you can do it, more or less. So that leaves Nick Hull and Andrew Porter on their own, but we need to see if this strategy works as we get to the end of the race, whether or not he's able to gain some time. Also in is the number 8 of Anthony Hutchins, not 80, but 8. They've changed the number hastily ahead of this one. Again, this is not a driver change, it's a simulated driver change, so out he gets, in he gets, a bit of assistance from some team members.
It's not very graceful.
See how difficult this is to get the belts up, and there is no graceful way of getting in and out of a racing car either, believe me, I've tried. And doing it with your helmet on, your hands device on, then having to get the belts right, get the steering wheel attached. Again, you can see there are detachable steering wheels, aren't there, on these cars? It's a process that they obviously are used to doing. They get in and out of these cars all the time, but not under the clock usually. Right, where's Andrew Porter gone? He's in the pit lane, so Andrew Porter is in. He's chosen sensibly, I think, to come in just one lap after Gary Lawrence. And Gary, I think, has left the pits now, but we'll find that out in a moment or two. We'll keep an eye to his car to see when he appears. We've got 94s heading in though, and they are our third, well, what was the third and fourth place 94 battle. It's become second and third after Carl Rosson has pitted. So into the pit lane then comes the number 11 car, the Pritchard and Campbell car, and the number 88, the Valentine and Morrison car. So they were both driver changes that were being made in the middle part of the race. That's Andrew Porter though. Now we need to keep an eye on Gary Lawrence. Where is Gary Lawrence? He should be.
Have you got my signal back yet?
Back on the track, I reckon.
Let's get a shot of that car with the plate.
He is. It should be pretty close between the two of them. He's only had one extra lap out there, so there is Lawrence. Well, there's Nick Hull. He's yet to stop, so he's inherited second place essentially as a result of everyone else stopping. Porter's gone. Where is Lawrence? Lawrence gone through yet or not? He must be somewhere around here, peering over the wall. The race leaders in, by the way, Hayes, Richard Avery and Nick Hull. So they're all coming in now in the almost a half race distance basically beforehand. There's 2 driver changes to take place here. 77 car. It turned out they added these front splitters, rear wings a few years ago to increase the performance of the cars. And they definitely did. All of the lap records have been broken now since they were added. So whilst this is going on, the battle for the championship, we presume, is raging somewhere on track, because the Andrew Porter car has now left the pit lane, and the timing screen hopefully will tell me in a moment where it came out in relation to the number 3, the green machine of Gary Lawrence. But pit stops still going on. Most people have now stopped to think, right, there's Gary Lawrence. That's part of the answer. He's at the chicane. Oh, and now there is Andrew Porter. So why is he so far? Well, is he ahead or is he behind? It's hard to tell because there's that much real estate between the two of them now. Lawrence, I think, is ahead by about half a lap. So significantly quicker pit stop from Gary Lawrence, we have to assume, was what did that. Oh, there was someone wide there, was there, at Coppice Corner. Pick that up in a moment, hopefully. It might have just been a trick of the light, but someone was running out wide. Oh, this has really jumbled the order about, hasn't it? Nick Hull then comes out of the pit lane. And he is ahead of Porter as well, but they're a bit closer together, aren't they, than they are to Gary Lawrence. So Lawrence had a really good stop. The other two have sort of average stops, and I think that's just split the pack.
Oh, lovely photographer.
The championship battle as the championship rivals now then rather separated on the circuit. So the next question is whether or not actually Gary Lawrence might have done enough to get the lead away from the 77 car, because that was a decent sized gap, and the time that he seems to have gained over everybody else tells me that maybe he might be able to. 28 goes back into the race again. It's the Andrew Baker and Patrick Kennelly car, although actually the timing screen suggesting it's only Andrew Baker in the car now. Number 8 has pitted, remember, as well. I think he's a lap down now. That's the Hutchins car. Will be lapped by Gary Lawrence, who comes through, still behind 77. So Hayes and Avery still lead the way by about 10.7 seconds at the moment. So they did a really good job, as did Gary Lawrence, of pit stops, whereas Nick Hull and Andrew Porter in particular have possibly thrown the race away. And what that means for the championship, I know not, but we'll try and get some answers for you if we can. So Gary Lawrence then, he's showing us third at the moment because Lee Bowden hasn't pitted. So Lee Bowden actually leads the race at the moment, number 16. And Lee is clearly taking this right to the end of the pit stop window. You don't have to pit by halfway, that's not the rule. There will be a window over the middle 20 minutes of the race, maybe, middle 15 minutes of the race, I suppose, in which they all have to stop, but you can do that more or less whenever you like. That will be Lee Bowden, I think, into the pit lane, number 16, so yeah, it is, there we go, number 16, Lee Bowden in. See how long this takes. I don't even think he's got anyone to help him, has he? I think Lee Bowden's doing this all on his own. He shuts the door, gets back in, and yeah, he's going to have to do this all on his own. So no outside assistance at all for Lee. Let's see whether that costs him time. He wasn't running amongst the leaders particularly anyway. He's got someone sort of watching him do it, but not helping him do it. So you're on your own, son. Then strapping up the belts, and here comes Nick Hull, so I presume he's going to drop in behind Nick and Andrew. 18 car is in as well, as you can see, which I think means that everyone's stopped now. Yes, it does. The 18 was the car that had inherited the 94 lead. That was Peter Smith, but Peter has now brought the car in. Peter Smith, the champion-elect in the 924s, that number 18 car. And should come out, I'd imagine, either in the lead of 94s or very close to it, because he was doing well before the pit stop window opened. Down the pit lane he trundles then, and wait for the Lee Bowden car to exit the pit lane, and then eventually the timing screen will update and we'll have a clearer idea of what the exact order is across both classes. But it looks as though Hayes and Avery will have a decent lead still. They're being caught at the moment, I can tell you, by Gary Lawrence. So Gary Lawrence was actually on the previous lap a couple of seconds quicker, and then an even slower lap actually for Hayes and Avery. So now that tells you that maybe one of the drivers in the car is quicker than the other, and now they've changed. It seems to me that the gap is coming down rather than up. The difficulty there getting Lee Bowden's car started, but they have now been able to get it on its way. And Lee trundling away down the pit lane. It must feel like you're absolutely crawling, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't the fastest pit stop we've seen. In fact, he's going to lose a whole lap look to Nick Hull, who was coming past him last time we saw. So Hayes and Avery then leading away, and they are definitely being caught by Gary Lawrence. So Gary Lawrence is now putting himself in a position to potentially win this race, because he has leapfrogged ahead of Andrew Porter and Nick Hull. He got second place away over the pit stops, and he's now quicker than the leading car. There is Gary Lawrence, the green number 3. Heads through McLean's corner. These next couple of cars are a lap down, and then eventually we'll get to Hull and Porter, where they're about 17 seconds behind. It's quite a big gap, that. But the gap I'll be monitoring now is between first and second. And my next question is, does that win Gary Lawrence the championship? Because he's already outscoring Andrew Porter. He can't have been far behind, or he might have even been ahead anyway going into this race. So is there a chance that Gary Lawrence could sign off the year with a win in the race and in the championship? Well, I'm sure the man himself knows. After the race we'll get some clear-cut answers. Through goes this nice battle. This is not for position though, because Anthony Hutchins, the white, red and blue car, is running in 5th at the moment. The 28 car in front of him is Andrew Baker, and he is running about 7th or 8th. I think it's 8th place actually before one of the 924s, and he does now move out of the way of the car that is a lap ahead of him. See, that's a bit more of a almost production spec box. It doesn't have quite such an aggressive bit of front aero, does it? That's not really quite as well developed perhaps as some of the others. But that was a fairly easy overtake. The closest to the battles is likely to be the one for the overall victory, actually, I think, because the gap is still creeping down by another 6/10 last time around. That is 6.3 seconds between the two. And it looks as though Hayes and Avery might well be having to defend in the final few laps of the race. The car will anyway maybe suggest it's Richard Avery in the car now, because Ed Hayes, as we know, former champion, I seem to recall, actually, in the Toyota's Porsche Championship, so one of the fastest drivers out there. You'd imagine maybe that Richard Avery is not quite as quick, but I mean, you never know really. On his day, Richard Avery has won races in this championship before in the past too, so neither of them are slow. They're just maybe that one is quicker than the other. That certainly seems to be the case. Either that or something's changed with the car. Now Nick Hull in 3rd. Is he being caught by Andrew Porter? The answer is, well, yes, by about half a tenth, that's all. So the 3rd place car is getting away from the 4th, or at least managing the gap back to the 4th place car. That means that there's less scope for Andrew Porter to gain any further points here. And yet there's every possibility that Gary Lawrence will, because he took another half a second out of the Hayes and Avery number 77 car that time around. The gap is now down to 5.8. So we're not seeing it on screen, but Gary Lawrence is pushing hard out there. Although he's not actually, he's about 9/10 of a second still away from his personal best, so he could go quicker. Carl Rossin just did a personal best. Now he's lost a lot of ground over the pit stop, because Carl Rossin, the number 41 car, was second, no, he was 3rd, wasn't he, in the 924s. Well, he's now a lot further back, is Carl, down in last place. I think he's actually possibly lost a lap on those that he was racing with, so he's hit some real variance in the pit stop times in this race. And that's having a real bearing on the order that we've got now and the gaps between the cars. You can see the order down the left hand side of your screen. I'll give you the gaps now. So Hayes and Avery, who lead the way, are 5 seconds clear now of Gary Lawrence. Gary was another 8/10 quicker on the previous lap. Then Nick Hull in 3rd is a further 17.26 back, with Andrew Porter 7.9 behind him and losing 8/10 to him on the previous lap as well. Then it's Anthony Hutchins, who did a personal best lap last time round, actually, 122.138. He's followed by Lee Bowden in 6th. Then 7th position is Peter Smith, so that's the first of the 924s, with 10th position the Jones and Lowry car, 639, second in class, and they're only 2.6 seconds back, so that gap, that's coming down even more quickly, so we're likely to have a lead change in the 924s before we get into the boxes, actually. Nick Hull comes through. Whereabouts are the 924s on the track, I wonder, because that could even change this lap, actually, the rate at which the Jones and Lowry car is catching the Pritchard and Campbell one. Andy Pritchard and Gary Campbell, that is, with John Jones and Ryan Lowry catching. This is not a battle for position, I don't think. No, Nick Hull is ahead of the car behind him. That's Lee Bowden, is it then? No, is he possibly he's not going to catch Andrew Porter either. Porter's actually 1 minute and 8 seconds ahead of Anthony Hutchins, so he's nearly a lap ahead of anybody else than Andrew Porter, so he shouldn't lose any more ground. He should stay in 4th position, but he's not able to keep up with Nick Hull, who did a personal best last time around. So did Lee Bowden, actually, just behind him, although Lee is 6th and a lap behind the Porter car in front. He did a 122.3, Hull did a 120.227. So the gap's ebbing and flowing, as you'd expect in a slightly longer race like this. It's almost more about what's going on the timing screen than on the actual track, but that lead gap is creeping down still by consistently 8/10 of a second a lap. So at that rate, it's going to take another 5 or 6 laps for Gary Lawrence to catch the Ed Hayes and Richard Avery car in front, and he's probably got about 5 or 6 laps, hasn't he? So this is going to be really close. Nick Hull there smoking along. Now, is that something to be concerned about? I couldn't see any fluid coming from the back of the car, but if there is any, we'll find out soon enough, because we'll start to slip and slide around a little bit more. There's quite a lot of smoke now emanating from the back of that 44 car. Not unheard of for Nick Hull to run into mechanical issues. Very spectacular accident. You may remember last year at Castle Coombe, he backed the car into the wall at the final corner and flicked it onto its roof. He was perfectly okay, but the car was very badly damaged. I believe that is still this car, though. He keeps on fixing it back up and getting it back out there. So Nick Hull will be hoping now that that engine lasts to the end, because otherwise he'd have to give up a podium place. That would, of course, help Andrew Porter, though. Seems to be doing it all the time, which is slightly strange, isn't it? It's only really when he's turning through a corner or straight, it's not too bad actually. So something rubbing maybe, or no, I think it is engine smoke. I don't think it's bodywork smoke. So have a look at it here. It's coming from the tailpipe as well, I think, isn't it? Although it doesn't do it on this occasion. So an intermittent issue, and that's possibly for the best, because it means that might have a chance of soldiering onto the flag. That's Peter Smith, by the way, the leader of the 924s, and he has a decent margin. Doesn't it? A really decent margin. He's probably about 30 seconds ahead of the Jones and Lowry car in second, which is now ahead of the Andy Pritchard and Gary Campbell car, who's dropped down into third position in recent time. Lead gap, meanwhile, 1.2 seconds. So Gary Lawrence has almost caught Ed Hayes and Richard Avery's number 77 machine. So they're probably about halfway around the lap by now, and they are almost nose to tail. Nick Hull dives up the inside of Anthony Hutchins, but has to put a lap on him, not the position. Where are the leaders? What's going on with the lead gap then? Is there even a lead gap now? There may not be. Here they are, they're together. Gary Lawrence has caught up to the back of Ed Hayes and Richard Avery's number 77 Porsche Boxster, and are about to start challenging perhaps for another race victory, and he's had plenty of them over his career, has Gary Lawrence, possibly more than any other driver on the grid these days. Racing the championship for as long as I've been covering it, so at least 7 or 8 years. And he's starting to apply the pressure. He dives to the inside, and I don't think much of a fight was being put up there. No, not at all. The 77 car knows it's beaten, and I don't know whether there's an issue possibly with that car, but there was absolutely no fight at all there. Through went Lawrence into the lead. So Gary Lawrence, then your new race leader, that certainly will help his championship standing come the end of this race. And the Boxster class coming into the weekend, Andrew Porter was actually 2.5 points ahead, according to the information in front of me. So that came down to half a point, I think, at the start of this race. Yes, it was winner takes all by the looks of it between them. Porter is not doing enough right now, is he? He's not only behind Lawrence, but several positions behind. Actually, almost 30 seconds off the lead now is Andrew Porter. He's almost matching Nick Hull sometimes, but not every lap, so that gap is going up between third and fourth. And looking through the timing screen, everyone is now sort of settling into their rightful positions, if you see what I mean. There's no one who's really catching anybody else. We did have a change on the previous lap, though, with number 28, Andrew Baker, getting himself ahead of Peter Smith. That was not for class position. This is the car that's second in the 19.4s then. This is the John Jones and Ryan Lowry car. Lowry, man from Stockport. Enjoys the Porsche racing, he's been more of it in recent years. Comes the second place car, then already that gap up to 2.1 seconds, so it shows the speed advantage that Gary Lawrence has over the field right now, which he didn't necessarily have in the first half of the race, did he? So that's slightly strange maybe that the pace sort of came to him after half race distance, or maybe he was managing the tyres. That's another element of this race, of course, because these cars are usually driven very hard for 20 minutes and that's it, but this was essentially 2 races in one. That takes its toll on the car. The engines, gearbox, drive shaft, tyres, brakes, driver, they all wear and tear, and the longer there you keep pounding around for, the worse that gets. So there is a strong possibility that Gary Lawrence was simply taking things easy at the start of the race, so as not to end up taking too much out of his car, nearly taking a chunk out of another car. There was the Brady of Anthony Hutchins. He was trying to dive up the inside of the Chris Valentine Porsche 924, I think that was. And thankfully the door did open eventually, but not instantly, it's fair to say. So, through they come then. Everybody pretty much on their own now, it must be said, in the latter stages of the race. Things have definitely settled down, and you can see the order just on the left, but on the bottom of your screen as well. And, several laps separating some of the cars, of course, that's because they're in different classes, but still some drivers pushing on here at the end. Lee Bowden with a 121.994 in 6th position. That was his quickest lap of the race so far, but he's not going to catch Anthony Hutchins at that rate. He is quicker than him by a bit, about 0.6 of a second, but he's nearly 20 seconds behind him. So you can see some of the gaps here in the field as they come through. There's Andrew Porter, the white car just disappearing from shot in 4th. And Anthony Hutchins is a long way behind him still, so not going to catch him in the closing stages, I don't think. 2.7 seconds the lead margin, but as soon as Lawrence had got the lead and then pulled a couple of seconds advantage over the Hayes and Avery car, he's sort of backed right off and felt no need now to continue pushing. Last thing he wants to do is throw the car off the road in the latter stages of the race when it's all sewn up, especially with the championship on the line. Here they go. Carl Ross in there trying to stay out of the way. I'd love to know why he lost so much time in the pit lane, because he has lost a full lap, I think, to the Jones and Lowry car and the Pritchard and Campbell car with which he was racing. So he didn't even actually have to do a drive change, did he? It was a solo entry, so he got out the car and got back in. You'd have thought if ever there was going to be any advantage for a driver, it would be the ones that are going in alone in that respect. But maybe there was some sort of issue with the car that we didn't see in the pit stop, maybe it stalled, but his way, should have been really ahead of this car, and as it is, he's 6 or so seconds behind it. Is that gap coming down? Well, yes, it is. That's the only position now that I think is likely to change in the closing stages. This 88 car of Valentine and Morrison car now, isn't it, for the second stint, is being caught. In fact, has almost been caught now by Carl Rossin. So Carl Rossin only 1.8 seconds back. You can see how close it is now, actually, as they come down the hill. So this is for 11th place. It's for, well, I say 4th from the 94, but Carl Rossin's car actually, for some reason, is listed as an invitation driver, so an invitation car. So it's a 924, yes, but clearly one that doesn't quite fit the regulations. He's still allowed to race, but in an invitation class, it doesn't score points significantly. So Carl sees the chance now to move himself at least up an extra position on the timing screen. No one wants to be last, do they? But this is the fight for the wooden spoon, the fight not to be last in the race. And Carl Rossin gets through the Coppice corner at the top of the hill, looks for a good exit, which he gets. Going to get alongside, I think he will. So Rossin trying to move into 11th position here overall, ahead of the 4th placed Porsche 924, 4th in class. Being smooth stick, so nicely done. Onto the brakes, into the chicane. And, unlikely, you'd have to say, the position will change back again, but I'm sure Valentine and Morris and that car will stay with Carl Rossin if it can. Carl, though, is 38 seconds behind anybody else, and whilst he is lapping quicker than the next car in front, which is the Andy Pritchard Gary Campbell car, it's not quick enough. Right, Gary Lawrence is heading down into the final corner. The checkered flag is being readied, and this final race of the season is about to come to an end. Gary is already into the final chicane now, makes his way onto the pit straight, and Gary Lawrence sees the checkered flag and wins the final race of the year. And we'll wait confirmation of what that means for championship points, but I don't think it did him any harm at all, and he's very, very happy with that. the way we worked the points out said that if he beat Andrew Porter, he won the championship, and he definitely did beat him. Second place for Ed Hayes and Richard Avery. Third for Nick Hull. Nice to see Nick back on the podium again. Fourth position for Andrew Porter. Eventually, there he goes, the man that led the championship coming into the weekend, and in fact led the championship coming into this race, but not convinced that he will be at the end of it. Then you've got Hutchins in fifth, sixth position for Lee Bowden, seventh for Andrew Baker, in the car that allegedly he was sharing with Patrick Kennelly, but never saw whether Andrew got in or Patrick got in or not. Then the 94s will be won by Peter Smith, and I think Peter has not yet come through, but here comes Carl Ross in to finish in 11th overall, with Valentine and Morrison car behind him, 12th and last. Still waiting though for our 94 winner to come through. He's into the final chicane now, I think, over Pritchard and Campbell car. Here we go. Andy Pritchard and Gary Campbell are going to win the 94 element of the Toyota's Porsche Championship race, and they do so in reasonably comfortable fashion, it must be said. Over in second place, the number 639 Peter Smith, excuse me, takes the victory. He's second place for Jones and Lowry, John Jones and Ryan Lowry, and then third place for Pritchard and Campbell. So fittingly, the champion in the 94 class wins the final race. So there we go then. Gary Lawrence wins the race. Hayes and Avery are second, Nick Hull third, and Andrew Porter in fourth, with Anthony Hutchins fifth, and Lee Bowden in sixth. Andrew Baker, Peter Smith, then the Jones and Lowry car ninth. They were the top two in the 94s, as you can see, with the Pritchard and Campbell car rounding out the top 10. Outside the top 10 were Carl Rossin in 11th position in the Invitational class, so he gets a class win, I suppose, albeit in class of one, and followed by the Chris Valentine car, 88, which got a lot of attention for its fancy paintwork, and sadly not the quickest car out there in that race, although it did lose time during the pit stops. So that's Porsche's done then for the season. Cars making their way down the pit lane now. James Turkington hasn't been out for another Porsche race, don't worry. He's car being wheeled away to the garage to be packed away. 2019 provisional TCR UK champion James Turkington. There are our Porsche drivers then, who make their way to the end of the pit lane, where eventually they'll be greeted by Bryn Lucas to have a chat with the podium finishes, at least in the boxing class. I don't know about the 94s, but see who we can fit in. More racing to come though, don't worry. That's not it. We've got the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup up next, then the OSS Championship for their second race, and the Disc Lock Civic Cup. That should be a good one, because that second place spot in the championship is still very much up for grabs. So still some more racing to come this afternoon. Stick around if you can and enjoy best of British club motorsport, and the MX-5 Super Cup in particular. I think that next race is going to be unmissable, because whilst we think the championship's been wrapped up now for Luke Herbert, there was another disagreement, shall we say, between Luke and Jack in that previous race, and the final race could sometimes be a little bit of a gloves-off affair, and I think that may well be what we see from that MX-5 Super Cup race in a few minutes' time. So don't go anywhere. You want to stick around to enjoy that one, I'm sure. So, as you can see, still an overcast and blustery day here at Donington Park, but not any sign of rain just now, so I'm hoping that we will get through the rest of the day without any. Donington is notoriously treacherous in the wet, so let's hope we get a dry afternoon, what is remaining of it anyway, and we should hopefully see some more good racing later on today. Porsche drivers being assembled, I believe, down in Parc Ferme. The format is that they pull into the Parc Ferme area, which is actually beyond the end of the pit lane, and then they're hoiked back in front of our cameras in the pits, so we can have a talk to them. And that process just takes a little bit of time, especially if they're all chatting to each other, which they will be, no doubt, and possibly trying to work out the championship themselves, which understandably is more important than chatting to us. But and in fact, we think that maybe that process is going to take too long. We've got more racing coming up, so we will instead focus on our next race, which will be coming up in just a few minutes' time. And that will be for the BRSCC MX5 Super Cup. Don't go anywhere, because that should be a good one.